everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of our podcast, Fire Plus. And today's topic, Jess, what are we talking about today?
I'm so glad we're going to hit this topic early on in our podcast, episode 2. We are going to go straight to the heart of our relationship, which is marriage.
Yeah.
Yes, we are married, co-pastoring and married, and we're going to be talking about marriage, ministry. I'm going to be talking about mundane stuff and how to keep things fun. And let's go there. I think we just go straight into it, Alex. You ready? Okay.
Set, go.
All right. So we are married. We're coming up to our
13 years. You're about to.
Good, you know.
No, you're the one that stole 13 years, Jess.
Yes, 13
July
years.
2nd.
Yeah. So 2010 was the year we got married, and we were young. You know, like the thing is I think about more, and this is just probably what people do as they get older.
Yes.
The older you get, the younger you think you were, like when you did stuff. Do you know?
Yep,
That does not make sense. But what I mean is, at the time when we got married,
We thought, yes, this is the right season in our life. Looking back now, I still think it was the right time.
yeah,
But it was relatively young. We were the first people in our circle of friends to get married.
yeah,
You know, these young Christian people, who are they? Don't they want to see the world and have 10 different careers, all that kind of stuff? According to the world standard, no. We're passionate believers, and we knew God had called us together. We thought, yep, mid-20s, now it's time to get married.
yeah. So we like, I don't question the timing of that. I don't think it would have been positive for us to not get married just for the sake of age. We knew that, you know, we were the right people for each other, and but I guess like now in my, you know, our late 30s, I think about like, gee, we were young, you know, and it's awesome. Like we've kind of grown up together and with each other, which has been really special. But
Third of my life has been with you, Jess.
oh, you worked out the math of that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I'm not usually the numbers dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been married with you for the majority of my adult life, you know, compared to those adult years being single. So being married longer as an adult than I have as a single adult before meeting you, before getting married. But marriage is an amazing thing. I just want to start the convo with marriage is incredible. It's a gift. It's a blessing. It's a covenant. Of course, if you're looking at marriage in a Christian perspective through God's eyes, it is a covenant. It's not a contract. It's a covenant. And I mean, we signed a legal contract, a legal document.
This contract
we did sign
says,
it, right?
I love you. This contract says, I love you. I signed a contract to tell you that I love you.
Yes.
It's shout out to the Office fans, you know what I'm talking about. But, you know, we felt to explore this topic today, marriage, ministry, how to stay in love with all that's going on with those things. And this could be definitely relatable to your calling, relatable to whatever sphere of society God's called you to as a married couple. And shout out to our single friends as well.
Yeah, and people that want to be married one day or believe they will be, or whatever, you know, whatever stage you're at. We definitely, you know, we've got a lot of years ahead of us. I feel like coming up 13 years, that's a pretty good like number of notches in the belt. And I feel like we do have some wisdom to give, but I'm also aware like we've got so much to learn. I absolutely love one of my favorite things about being in church, not just as a pastor, but just being a person in a church community, is hearing other married couples, like those who've been married, you know, 30, 40, 50 years, and they're still married. Like that's what you want to hear, right? That they've run the distance, but also like that they still like really, really, really love each other, really love the Lord, and are thriving, not just kind of like surviving, like those thriving couples, and hearing their wisdom. It's one of my absolute favorite things. When I was a single adult, young person, attending a different church and just kind of doing my thing, and involved a little bit in the church, but not in ministry, so to speak. And I intentionally went to like a home group, you know, what we call house fires here at Fire Church, but like a home group, small group, a midweek group I found one that had a mix of ages because I specifically knew that what I wanted to learn from people, like people older than me and married couples, just their take on life, the things they've gone through, how they came out the other side. Like that for me is like, I love that. For me, that's sometimes more valuable than reading a how to stay married book. Do you know what I mean? It's
I
like
still
hearing the real
speaking
stories.
of Richard and Christine Bryant, shout out to you.
Do you think they're going to listen to our podcast?
Yeah, they watch everything that we put up. They watch every sermon from the moment we start to the moment we finish. Shout out.
Maybe.
They're just mucking around. They're our awesome pre-marriage counselors. When we were just dating, engaged, before we got married, we lent in and gleaned from this couple who at that point I think were 30 years into their own marriage, in their early 50s, and from our last church, and they just had so much to share in terms of wisdom, knowledge, experience, and a lot of those things we still carry through and remember into our marriage now.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate. If you're about to get married, if you're engaged or you plan to be engaged soon, I highly advocate for premarital counseling, because it's stuff that really goes into the health and the well-being of your own marriage. Because your wedding day isn't just the wedding day; it's actually years and decades of life together. And so studies actually do show couples who go through premarital counseling have a 30% chance of staying together for the long run than those who don't.
Yeah, and that's like, you mean 30% better chance than those who don't? Like 30% doesn't even sound like enough, really. Hey, as in the stats.
When you think about the stats now, it's just crept over 50%. What is the divorce rate in the world? It's just a little bit over 50%. So I'll take anything,
More married couples are not lasting the distance than those that are. And so we're speaking from our perspective. Obviously, that's all we can ever do. And we have come this far and we've gone through some stuff together. And we're still together, which is awesome. And I think like you and I were talking at home during the week, we feel like we actually love each other more now than the day we got married. And that might sound a bit cheesy, but it's a genuine thing because, well, yeah, we've kind of grown up together, but like the more things you go through together and that you stay the course and you get to know each other better. And there's, I've watched you grow into a minister and just, all those kind of things, like the celebrations of what God does in each other and in us as a family unit. So yeah, we can both say like, I love you more now than I did, on July 2nd,
Thank
2010.
you, because I said that the other day, but it wasn't reciprocated until now.
No, but I was nodding along. But did I not reciprocate? I was just soaking in what you were saying.
But it's true. Like we've gone through a lot in the last 13 years of marriage, a lot of highs, a lot of lows and things like that. Nothing to ever make us want to bust up or break up. We always made a covenant, a promise that we will never bring up the word divorce, joke about divorce, or even entertain the word divorce. If there's any issues, we always made that policy, like the Bible says, to not let the sun go down on our anger. And so sometimes we just had to work things out before we went to sleep.
Begrudgingly sometimes as well.
There's a recent meme on Instagram where the wife's upset and she turns her back and she tries to shuffle away and the husband tries to follow. And then the next scene is they're going down the steps and she's like shuffling away. And the next scene is at the road, she's shuffling away. They're still lying down the road. It's like, I sent that to Jess yesterday as a bit of a joke.
Put it in my DMs as a joke.
Yeah. It's just it's a funny thing that couples do. And we love the show Everybody Loves Raymond, right? Because the producers, they just kind of like encapsulate what a real marriage looks like for the everyday person, and all the highs, lows, the little quirks, little jokes. I'm sure if anyone has seen that show, your marriage reflects that. And so I say to Jess often, you're like Deborah, and I'm like Raymond. You just some of the things that myself as a dad. And I think this is why it's good to actually laugh. For us, the longevity of a good, healthy marriage, you got to have a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. And for us to end up together, we recognized early in the piece when we were dating, actually we have a similar sense of humor. we grew up watching the same TV shows. Well, number one, we love Jesus. That's the first priority.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the order
That's the
right.
base
Otherwise,
level,
we're
first
saying
priority, and
make
always
sure you
will
like
be.
the same shows.
And we said he will always be our best friend
Yeah.
before each other.
Yeah.
That is the case. And then the next important thing is, what did you grow up watching? Simpsons, Seinfeld.
That's the second thing.
No, well,
See, I told you at the start of the episode we were young. Like
Yes, we were
we've
young.
grown up. The second most important thing is
grow
not
up as a
TV
Christian,
shows.
so Seinfeld wasn't banned in the household, and there is some wholesome jokes to Seinfeld, yes. But for us, the main thing, what I'm getting at is, we found this compatibility in our humor.
Yeah.
And we just knew we can weather any storm as long as we always brought it back to who we are as a person, and just laugh about things as well.
Yeah, because I mean, we're married. We live our lives together. Obviously, there's things we do. We're not with each other every minute of the day, but you need to get along. Like you need to, I guess that's what you're coming from with compatibility. Like you know, I worked out, oh, this is someone that I like hanging out with, and I didn't like over spiritualize it. I knew you loved the Lord. I knew that we were equally yoked. I'm like, do I want to hang out with you? Because if the answer is no, that's probably going to be a problem, because you're going to hang out hopefully with your partner a lot.
Do you remember, because, as innocent young adult Christians, you want to be above reproach, and we're Bible college classmates. We roped Eric along into one of these hangouts. He was like our tag-along chaperone.
You did that and really confused me, because I thought we were hanging out and then there's like a third wheel.
Shout out to you, Eric. Eric's happily married now to Sandy, great couple, and kingdom business people, and he preaches too. But it was just funny. Eric was just there as the tag-along, and I like you, and I didn't know back then that you liked me too, but I just remember thinking, oh, Eric's in the way.
Well, that was your fault.
That was my fault.
But yeah, we were young, but we worked it out pretty quickly. We had a short engagement. I'm glad we did.
5 months.
I'm glad we did. I think, and I reflect back and I wonder what things would have been like if we had have stayed, just in a relationship longer before we were engaged, or in an engagement longer before we were married. And I think the thing is, like, again, not to make a sweeping statement, but like when you do know.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to, like, the practicality of, like, there was some things for our wedding that, we didn't have all the bells and whistles that we might have had. We have had more finances, but we had a beautiful wedding.
Let me stop you there.
Okay.
We had a pretty good menu. We had steak.
The food was good.
We had seafood. I mean, for a full-time Bible college student, you just got a job. I think it was a pretty good menu.
Yeah.
Except the venue did overcook the steak on Dr. Nick's table. Sorry, friend.
Sorry,
friends. That whole table from Planet Shakes from my old church, they overcooked your steak, and we repent. We apologize. Let's move on.
It surprises me that you remember those details.
I remember. That's the only thing I remember at the menu. Overcooked steak. My steak was really good, though.
Well, that's good.
Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't, I guess what I'm saying is, we could have saved longer. We could have, lots of things. We could have stayed engaged longer and gone, let's wait till we can buy a house. Let's wait. And we just don't, you know what? No, we actually want to just start our lives together and trust that God will provide the rest as we go. And I'm glad we did. I don't regret getting married young, because the main thing was marrying the right person, and you are the right person. But I've got to make a willful decision, like the two of us, to keep deciding that you are still my right person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'm going to get real. I promised in episode 1 that I'm going to be real and personal, and so definitely in this topic I'm going to be real. And this is, I don't want to throw you under the bus, Alex, but you probably feel the same, but I will. But you probably feel the same about me, and maybe this is a general thing for married couples or people in relationships. Like, sometimes the very things that I loved about you when I first met you can also then become the things that drive you nuts.
Like what?
Like when you live together.
You need some counseling after this. Rich and Christine, if you're watching, give me a call.
No, they're all things. Okay. I mean, there actually shouldn't be any surprises for on your end. It just helps people. Hopefully, it means we're more relatable and people get that it's not all like.
All right, just get to the point. What is it? What is it?
Like just little things. Like sometimes, we've talked to our church congregation about this, and we often will joke a little bit about it. That you are, like what I say, an extreme extrovert.
I'm not extreme extrovert.
I do believe you are.
I'm an extrovert at times, but I'm not extreme extrovert.
Well, I feel like if it's on a spectrum or you know, a bit of a range, I feel like you're pretty far on the extrovert side. And I like, despite, you know, I'm sitting here knowing this is getting recorded, talking to an audience now, I'm good with that. But like my nature, I'm introverted. I love to have time alone. I love quiet. I love to, you know, leave church and go home and not see 100 people straight afterwards. You know, we're quite different on that spectrum.
My background,
and it drives me nuts.
In coaching, getting to know people, blah blah blah. 70% of people are actually ambiverts between extroverts and introverts. I'm probably more in between ambivert and extrovert. I'm not extreme extrovert. I actually do love and value my quiet time with God and to recharge my batteries. So just to make it clear.
So we're maybe now meeting in the middle.
Yeah, I think the older I get and you know, the busier I get, I think I do value the quiet time, private time a little bit more.
All right.
When I was young, yes, I was always out. I was always out of the house. Yes, probably when we met, I was probably more of that extreme extrovert.
Well,
but now it's kind of tempered back down.
Well, let me get to my point, because some of the things that drive, I love, like and I still love this about you, that when we met, you were really good at gathering people. You were amazing. One of the things I actually really admired about you is that you would, in your church and your circle of friends, it was like having a meal with like the United Nations. It was like someone represented from every continent, just different people, different walks of life, and you were kind of like, in my head, like the group leader, this friendship group, and kind of like the oddbods, and they all had a place, and you were amazing at gathering people, and you were all good with like meeting people for the first time, saying, "Hi, I'm Alex," and all. You were like what I struggled to do, you know. And I love people, but just putting myself out there and getting to know people on a one-on-one, that takes a lot of effort for me. And you were great at that, and making plans and gathering people and all that kind of stuff. So you're still really good at that. But now that I'm married to you, and like I'm tired and I might be emotionally tired, and then you make plans on our behalf, and because you're great at gathering people and
that's what Siri thought too.
Siri agrees. She's got my back.
I know where Jess is going.
You know? Okay, see, that's what I mean. No surprises.
And where she's going with this, and I had to learn early in our marriages. I'd promise a group of people after church that would hang out. Then I go to Jess. Jess says, "No, I'm tired." Then I tell the people. Jess says no. So I would literally throw Jess under the bus, blame her. Oh no. And say, "Oh, she's tired. She doesn't want to go out."
If you're listening and that's you, it's not personal. I just get like, I do need like a bit of like, I'm good with having a busy weekend, and then the following one needs to be quiet, and it's just me. It's not personal, but, and then, so you knew where I was going with this.
We've learned this from like the pastor's training. Go ahead of your Sunday. Is it a yes Sunday with hanging people, or a no Sunday? And if it's a no Sunday, don't throw your wife under the bus. Just say no up front. Just say, "Oh, we got other plans," or "We're going to rest," and things like that.
Yeah, and
that's
also,
a little life hack for
but also, Alex,
watching.
It could be the opposite. Like I know couples where married couples, and it's not always that you're in ministry. You just, you're just doing life, and there's, family schedule, and there's lots going on, and you're trying to find time for each other, time for yourself, time if you've got kids, time with your kids, all that stuff, right? And still sleep 7 or 8 hours a day. It can be the opposite. Like we know people where the husband is more on the introverted side and the wife is, more like you, extreme extrovert. Yep. I still hold that statement. But, and it's just, I guess it's that honoring each other and going, okay, well, we've been brought together. And so if I loved that about you and about your personality and your strengths, and instead of getting irritated by that, I go remind myself of like, hang on, this is one of the reasons why God brought us together. Like there's a balance there. There's, and when we honor each other, we actually bring the best out in each other. But if I just look through a lens of frustration, or you don't understand me, or you're not even trying to understand my emotions, all those, what I mean, hypothetically, if you stay in that place of that lens and those frustrations and just, life little hiccups, then it's really easy to forget to actually honor each other. Like we've been called to honor and serve each other first, before anybody else, before our kids, before our church, before our families. We've both got amazing parents and siblings, but we actually have to put God first and then each other.
Correct.
But life can get in the way of that.
Well, one of the things we said we'll cover is how do we continue to co-labor and remain in love with each other.
Yeah.
And I hinted towards that earlier in this podcast that God is our. Remember, in our first couple of years of marriage, we'd always say, or even when we were dating, "You're my best friend." Disclaimer, and that disclaimer, we already knew that Jesus is our number one. He's our best friend, and then it's us.
Yeah.
And so if I can be a little bit real here, there's been times throughout the years where maybe if I've been a little bit grumpy, you go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've been spending time with God." Or if you've been a little bit snappy, go, "I wanted to go away and spend time with God." You're getting a little bit snappy at the moment. And it's always the thing that brings us back to the center. Like our walk, our relationship with God is what really helps for a thriving and healthy marriage. And, not just ministry, but marriage first, and then the ministry follows as well.
Yeah. And I think like that's the thing, like we're married with, two become one, and we've got a beautiful relationship that we continually work on. And I believe that I hope, and I also believe that in another 13 years, we will again come out with a statement of, and believe each other that, we love each other more, and you'll just nod back. Yeah. But, when you think about like two individuals, two people that are individually have value, individually have hopes and dreams and personality traits and flaws and strengths and all of that. We're still two individuals. We're married. We've made a covenant with each other and with God that we will stay together. And so like, it's a bit of a dance to get it right. Like I've got things that I am passionate about that maybe aren't so important to you, and vice versa, but we honor that. And then there's things that we are like 100% on the same
Gilmore
page.
Girls, that show really sucks, but you love it for some reason. I've just offended all the Gilmore Girl fans. Anyways, we've got one of our producers, Rachel, shaking her head in the background, living in a fence right now.
And, the thing is, like, two individuals that God loves, that God wants to use and has a plan for, and yet God has a plan for our marriage, for us together as well. And they shouldn't conflict and contradict, but it's just, as in our humanity, we have to work out like, okay, how's this all going to work out? And how do I need to make sure I don't steamroll you with, well, God said to me, and how do I make sure that I'm allowing you to be the head of the house, and yet we co-lead this church together, and we both add value to that, and one's not better than the other, and all of the whole dynamic of that, and still remain in love, and still be able to say, I love hanging out with Alex Barcenas, take away the title, take away all of that. Yeah. I love just hanging out with you because we're compatible. God brought us together, and we're not just frustrated and tolerating each other. We love each other.
And let's maybe give quick little pointers, what we do practically.
All right, our top tips.
In love and have fun. Yeah. We go on date nights at least once a fortnight.
I think we're overdue currently, but that's okay.
So at least a fortnightly date night. If we can't get out of the house, it's an in-house, it's an Uber Eats date night.
We got really good at that during lockdowns, at making a really special time. Was the last saver
during lockdowns. But yeah, surprising each other. Just being creative in what we do, and not doing the same thing over and over as well. But just the importance of making it a regular date night. I learned that from, I think it's Steve Furtick. He said, even if you can't get out of the house, get some Hungry Jacks, so Burger King.
I think we can do better than Hungry Jacks and Burger King.
But the idea of actually spending time together, and we purposely don't talk about church, don't talk about work, and just talk to each other. Yeah. Because one of the pitfalls I've heard older couples say is when the kids leave the house, it's an empty nest. They're looking at the other person like, who are you? Like their whole life was centered around work and the kids, but not their relationship.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And like, I know for me, because we're in and some people listening might have the same thing, or end up one day in a marriage where you work together. Like, we're in a unique situation, but we're certainly not the only people where we're not only married and raising children together, we also work together. Like, we're leading the church together, and you're doing obviously full-time hours and I'm part-time, and all of that. And there might be people that run, maybe they run a business together plus they're married, or they work at the same actual workplace. It is like tricky because you've got to try and make sure your whole relationship isn't based on that. but it's also okay to talk about it. Like, and you know, for us, we have to talk about our role because we're working together. But I think being really intentional about, okay, when's a time where we don't talk about that? Let's honor each other. Let's give each other breaks from that, because otherwise it gets very work. And we forget that, hey, you're a person that I just love hanging out with. Like, I love you, you love me. And also when you said that that like empty nest situation that happened, we're not there. Obviously, we've got a really full nest. We've got 3 young children, school-age children at home. They need us all the time. And a dog that needs us all the time. And so we've got a full nest. But yeah, we've heard, like, again, this is coming back to, I love hearing from married couples who've got lots more years under their belt, because they will talk into these things. And I think, you know, when you said they go, well, they don't know who each other are and they don't want to talk about it, also kind of reflects sometimes you don't know who you are. You know, well, who's Jess despite all of my hats and my responsibilities? Because if I can bring Jess into the relationship, I
love
am.
how you're talking in third person at times, by the way. It is quite often.
You do love that about me, don't you? But, you know, who am I? And bringing that person that you first met into, you know, bringing her to the table, and you bringing yourself, and kind of taking away the expectations of each other sometimes too, and just going, hey, we're 2 people that are doing life together. We're partnering in life together. We love each other, like, and just kind of maybe sometimes taking away the pressure of how things should be.
Correct.
And just be.
Another quick pointer. For us, what's really helped is quick to forgive. I did mention it earlier to an extent. Not going to sleep when we've got issues to sort out, but very quick to say sorry, forgive. And then also for us, I learned this, I think it was Billy Graham that said it. How do you spell marriage? W-O-R-K. It takes a lot of work. A healthy marriage takes a lot of work.
I had to really think that out in my mind's eye where you were going with that.
Yes.
Yeah. And it is work.
It's effort. It's apologizing quickly. It's going on date nights. It's also having healthy boundaries with the opposite sex. So we have a policy that we'll never be alone in the same room, car, with the opposite sex. Even when I have meetings, the door is always open. Where there is that rare need to counsel the opposite sex, I've got accountability as well. The team know who's in the building, who's in the office, and things like that.
And also, and I know, like you and I are like, I'll tell you first, are you okay with this? Are you comfortable with this? Does this sound right to you? Because I care what you think, you know, and I think it's just, again, it becomes honor. I think like honor and submission are not places of, you know, you don't need to be scared of it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And especially when it's two-way, you know. I want to give a couple of other tips from my end. Like I think, and God's really shown me this, particularly since working with each other and being in this unique situation of we're not just married, but we're also working together, is like I actually check with my dad, you know, my Heavenly Father. I check with him and go, what am I meant to take home today and bring to the table, and what is just...
You're talking about like a roast chicken from Woolies or... snags from the butchers.
No, like, you know, the things that, you know, you're really good at listening to me, particularly if it's things, you know, that I'm maybe wanting to vent, and it might just be the kind of day I've had or whatever. But that's not your sole duty, is not to listen to all of my, you know, venting, despite you're good at it and you'll always have a listening ear. And now I go like, what just is something I talk to God about, and what are the things that I talk to you about, and what needs to be talked about today, and what can wait, because you know, when I've had a big day, well, so have you, and just really considering that too, considering each other's emotional needs, mental needs, making sure that, you know, we enjoy each other's company, that it's not always like this high expectation that really no one man or woman can meet the needs of another man or woman. The only person that can meet the emotional and spiritual and mental needs of a person is Jesus, is God, is having that relationship. So 100%. Kind of just like, it's not lowering the bar, but it's just going like, you know, you're not going to be everything for me.
That's right.
And I'm not going to be everything for you. And we're growing up and we're working it out, but we've made a promise.
And if you did say that to me, like, oh, she's not the anointed woman I thought, not the sanctified sister. She's like, oh, she's making me an idol, putting me on a pedestal. And that actually was one of the key things that really attracted me to you, is that you had a healthy, thriving relationship with God. Because, you know, I've seen in the past where people just put others on a pedestal. It's like, no, that's not the order. The order is God, your spouse, your kids, and everyone else.
And your dog.
Yeah, dogs. Yeah, it depends had an accident or not. With the anyways, I've too many traumatizing stories about cleaning up after him.
Oh no, but and I think like maybe just as we come to a close on this episode, and it's probably a topic we throughout the series of these episodes we might come back to different things of our personal relationship and hopefully some wisdom we can share. But I guess to come to a close for today is when everything else is taken away, like the jobs. Kids or no kids, or kids grow up, or you choose not to have kids. Hobbies, physical abilities change as you grow, and all those kind of things. When everything else is taken away, if you're married, like what remains is that person that you chose to be in covenant with, and it's kind of like going, well, how am I going to make sure that I stay the course, that we together, like we've got something thriving and flourishing and healthy, and something that other young people can then, look up to, like we did when we were younger. We looked up to older couples that stayed the course and had like gold for us to learn from. Well, I hope one day we can be that to younger married people or single people that have that desire to be married one day. Well,
speaking of as well, when all things are taken away, even for our single friends who feel the call to celibacy and to, remain single for the rest of their lives. I heard a preacher say, what are you going to do when the crowds are gone? When you're not preaching to the crowds anymore, or you're not running a business anymore, and you're on your porch, you're old and you're gray, what are you going to do then? And he was pointing to the fact that start your relationship with God while you're young and develop it, get to know the Lord while you're young, and see it through all the way till you meet him in glory. So friends, thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Episode number 2, we love talking about this topic, and we hope that you found it really helpful. If you have any questions, we'd love to speak with you. Hit us up on our socials and things like that, or see us in church. We love you guys, and I'll see you soon.
See ya.